With so much hype, with so much excitement around the Detroit Pistons, we got to decide and talk about it. Is this excitement and all of this hype for real? Let's get into it right now. Top Title Entertainment. Let's go.
Perfect. Perfect.
What's good? Welcome to Top Title Entertainment. I am Eric Vincent, your host and Detroit Pistons beat reporter at clutchpoints.com. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for your time. Please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel so we can get this video out to the sports community. I would really appreciate your support because we really got a lot that we need to talk about, something I'm really excited about, which is the hype and all the attention we're seeing around the Detroit Pistons right now. As you can see by the banner, I'm obviously all the way here for it. But we got to talk about whether or not all of this hype and all this attention is actually for real. Is it just a blip? Is it just a little blur of attention that they're getting right now? Are they going to fall off? Is this something that we're going to see built on for the future? Obviously, for me, I clearly think this is for real. I think the Detroit Pistons have made the necessary turnaround to be taken serious in the NBA. Now, that doesn't mean I believe they're going to be instant title contenders right now. When I say are they for real, I just mean, are they a team that other teams need to be taking serious? Is this a team that can play competitive basketball, compete for a playoff spot down the line, and in this moment right now? I think we're getting those answers right in front of us at this moment. I don't think this 21-19 record is an accident. I don't think these games that we're seeing, I don't think this development that we're seeing at this very moment is an accident. I think this is something that they've worked on. I think this is something that they were focused on and building in the offseason. And I think the guys that have been put in position to help this franchise have put them in the proper position to be for real right now. I think all of this hype is warranted, and I think this team absolutely needs to be taken serious by the rest of the NBA. This is not a joke that we're seeing with the Detroit Pistons. Let's go through some of the reasons why I believe it's for real. Hey, talk to me in the comments. If you believe so, tell me why. If you don't think so, tell me why. My reasons are very, very simple. We're going to start with the most obvious one. The biggest talking point of the Detroit Pistons so far, the most obvious and the most important development for their entire franchise is the breakout superstar season that we're seeing by point guard Cade Cunningham. This dude is everything that we thought he was going to be. Those who saw him in college, even before that in high school at Montverde, everybody who saw him at that point knew that he was somebody that a franchise could build around. Well, I remember the trend on social media, fade for Cade. All those teams that wanted to tank, whether it was the Raptors, the Cleveland Cavaliers, like it was a lot of teams that were interested in having Cade Cunningham. The Houston Rockets, the Detroit Pistons were obviously one of those teams as well. Coming off of a rebuilding season, not having much of a direction, they needed a guy like Cade Cunningham to step in and become that guy. And in his fourth season at this point, he has absolutely become that focal point piece for the Pistons. Averaging career high numbers across the board, 24.5 points a game, just under 7 rebounds a game, 9.5 assists a game, which is third in the NBA. Career high efficiency from the field, from three. He's showing a level of confidence that we have not seen through his entire career. And for obvious reasons as well. The first 3 seasons going through so much struggle, so much turmoil, so much roster turnover, the front office not having a clear-cut direction of what was the right and necessary pieces and moves for this man to see his true potential. And now with the few little tweaks, we are seeing this guy dominate at an all-time level in his career, and winning is finally coming along with it. Those who were paying attention in the first 3 seasons know that Cade Cunningham has always had this potential. He's been getting double-teamed, drawing so much extra attention from his opponents, and producing at a high level. Unfortunately, it just didn't come with a winning record to give the warranted attention that it needed. Now, if we look at what he's doing, he's being competitive, the Pistons are being competitive, and they're not just doing it against bottom-feeding type teams. The Pistons are playing competitive basketball against winning teams, losing teams, and they're winning in every kind of fashion. I don't think teams need to be dominating and whooping on everybody by 25 points in order to be taken serious. There are a bunch of teams who sometimes struggle through the first half, but have to turn it on in the third and the fourth quarter to turn out a victory at the end. There's nothing wrong with that. At least for a team that's learning to win and going through growing pains, it's okay to take the necessary steps and go through different kind of phases to learn what it takes to win NBA basketball games. So what have we seen from the Pistons in that exact span? We've seen them have comeback victories against teams like the Sacramento Kings. We've seen them dominate against other teams. We've seen them go against nip and tuck matchups against teams like the New York Knicks, the LA Lakers, on the road, at home, against the Miami Heat. Like, we've seen them have to go through a lot of these kind of situations. And a lot of time from what we've seen, especially recently, they're coming out victorious now. Just last season, they were kind of going through a bit of the same deal. Even though they had a lot of losing on their resume with a 14-68 record, they were still competitive for some quarters and stretches, which showed that they could maybe get on the right track if they had the proper organization and motivation around them. They didn't have that last season, but now they do, and it's coming on the back from Cade Cunningham. It's coming from their star point guard who's doing what's needed in order for them to be an absolute star player right now. He's doing everything that you could ask. Scoring, playmaking, rebounding, giving every bit of energy and focus that this team needs in order to be taken serious. If he was still struggling, this team would not be sitting in the position they are. They wouldn't be 8th in the Eastern Conference the way they are right now. They wouldn't be competing against these other contending teams that we're seeing right now. And he's doing it in a situation where he still doesn't have, I think, the greatest roster around him. While I do appreciate the moves and the pieces that have been added to this team, these players still aren't these unbelievable superstar pieces that may be here for the next 5 to 10 years. We don't know where Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Tobias Harris will be in the next 5 years. We have no idea. On top of that, we also know that Jaden Ivey has been hurt and is probably going to miss another good chunk of this season. We don't know if it's going to be for the rest of the season or what it is, but the gruesome leg injury that he suffered is going to put him on the shelf for a little while. Now, while a lot of people thought they were going to take a step back because of that, this team has taken a step forward and played even harder in spite of that situation. And I can't be anything but proud of these guys. They've been fantastic with the production that they've given without Cade's running mate, without their second best player at this point. So you would think with Cade having to have a more shouldered responsibility on his plate, that it would come with a little bit more struggle. He has answered the call and has been fantastic in responding to the shortage of help that's been around him. And even going back to the veterans that I just mentioned, these guys, Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., Tobias Harris, very good players for this roster. And because of all the attention that Cade Cunningham draws, they found a way to be productive, move without the ball, and give Cade that proper assistance as shooters and floor spacers to help this offense and also lift them up defensively as well. We're also seeing a bit of an emergence from Asar Thompson when he's healthy and on the floor. He's helping the Pistons play in fast break opportunities by locking up the best defender and creating turnovers. We're seeing Jalen Duren playing a little bit better than he did to start the season. We're seeing Beef Stew, Isaiah Stewart, play the best defense he's played in his entire career. He looks like he could be a potential all-NBA defensive team player. He's been fantastic for the Pistons. I'm really proud of them, man. I really do think that Cade Cunningham and his star all-NBA level production that he's giving them is something that's going to continue over time, because he was giving this kind of production even without the winning, and now that they are, it's warranting a complete turnaround in terms of what this team looks like. Cade is a big number one reason for that, and the Pistons need to make sure they are putting the proper pieces around him to make sure this continues to get better and better and better for Cade. Because even with as good as he's playing right now, I still don't even think he's hit his ceiling yet. I don't think this isn't the end for him. He can still do more at this point. He can still be a better finisher. He can still be a better free throw shooter. Like, there's still areas of his game where if he just adds a little bit more, or maybe gets a little bit more help around him, it could take those areas that I just mentioned. It could get even more production for him and make him that much more dangerous in the NBA. Cade Cunningham has been absolutely sensational, and he is doing a phenomenal job of carrying this team to the progress that we are seeing right now. Another big difference that we're seeing is the change in leadership with this team. It can't be overlooked in terms of what we've seen from Trajan Langdon and JB Bickerstaff. We'll start with Trajan coming in as the new president of basketball operations for the Pistons, where he was thrusted into this position, coming away from the New Orleans Pelicans, coming into a position now where he came into the draft with kind of a short timeline, in being able to help add production and add new pieces to this team. He openly said when he was here during the draft and even before that, players in the draft were being told not to come to the Detroit Pistons, not to work out for the Pistons, not to answer phone calls from the Pistons because of the turmoil they went through last season with Monty Williams and Troy Weaver. So now with Trajan here, making the moves that he thinks are the best suited for this team are showing to be worth it. They're showing their value right now. Like I said, bringing in those veteran pieces, having a pretty good draft, bringing in Ron Holland, who is, to me, growing at a pretty impressive rate. While he's not a guy that's one of their most important players in terms of their production right now, he's growing and getting better every single time he plays. He's gone through his growing pains of, situations like where he misses 2 free throws against the Milwaukee Bucks that could have tied or clinched the game, in terms of the close finish that they had on the road. He's gone and stepped up in moments from then. He has done a lot of good things like playing in transition, playing really good defense, getting a better jump shot from working with Fred Vincent. He's done a lot of good things that show the promise that he can be here for the long haul and help this team out. Going back to Fred Vincent, that's another huge thing that Trajan Langdon has done for this team. The shooting guru that did a wonderful job with the New Orleans Pelicans, helping guys like Lonzo Ball, helping guys like Herb Jones, helping guys like Brandon Ingram even. He's done a wonderful job taking guys like Asar Thompson under his wing. Even when Jaden Ivey was here, he was shooting a career high from three-point range, doing wonders for helping him out. Ron Holland as well. Even Cade Cunningham, who's also shooting a career high from three-point range. That, to me, was the biggest X-factor move in terms of where the Pistons could grow, because they were a team that desperately needed shooting improvement from last season. Their spacing was terrible. Their best shooters were all hurt or old or not healthy, or they were only good at shooting and not doing much else. Now the shooters you have can give you help on both sides of the floor. So now you're seeing a growth in that, and you're seeing it pay dividends to other areas for the Detroit Pistons. Fred Vincent has done a fantastic job, and I'm so happy Trajan Langdon was able to get him. Now sitting here looking at where the Pistons are in terms of what they're doing at a 21-19 record in the AC of the Eastern Conference, the Pistons have roughly $14 million of cap space, where he said they wanted to take their time and kind of develop and grow and take baby steps and not skip or rush any development to make sure they were doing what was needed to get them on the right path. Now that they're winning, now that we're seeing Cade in a all-star light, now we're knowing that the backcourt does work and these young pieces are also taking steps forward as well. Knowing that all that is working, knowing that the veterans are working as well, Trajan now has an idea of what works with this young core. What kind of pieces fit around Cade Cunningham? So knowing that, he has a better idea of what can be done in order to add the correct pieces to help this young franchise. So while I don't believe they may not, go after a superstar piece to trade for, I do believe he has an idea of what he thinks is going to be the best fit for this team in terms of what to add to the roster. He's talking about, or we've seen reports of the Pistons being open to taking on contracts to bring in assets, or wanting to add in another piece to, help complement this foundation for the long haul. And I'm okay with that. I don't think he's going to take a huge plunge right now, but I do think he has a plan in terms of how he wants to add the right pieces to make this team even more dangerous than they are right now. Trajan Langdon has done a fantastic A-plus job. We've even seen reports that he's the betting favorite for GM of the year. I do think it's kind of early for that right now. I think we may want to wait a little bit longer before we stamp that. But either way, he should be in consideration, considering how bad the Pistons were last year and how good they are right now. Let's move on to JB Bickerstaff, someone else who needs to get amazing consideration for honors at their position, Coach of the Year. He has been unbelievable in this turnaround. Coming back from the Monty Williams era, where Monty was running all bench rotations and saying he can fix Killian Hayes and benching Jaden Ivey for ridiculously long sets and leaving him out of the rotation and just showing a lack of understanding of what this team truly needs. It really set them back a whole year. It set them back a whole year. And it's not all on him. I don't think the roster he was given was great anyway, which is kind of falls on Troy Weaver. And it really hindered what they were supposed to be in terms of last season. So looking at where they are now with JB Bickerstaff, where they started off 0-4, and since then they have shown that they can be competitive, that they can win, that they can compete against anybody. Even the teams that they've lost to. They've lost to the Boston Celtics, one of the contending teams in the East, the Cleveland Cavaliers, another team that they lost to, the Denver Nuggets, who they lost to as well on the road on a Western Conference trip. They were competitive against these teams. They aren't just getting wiped out by these teams. Really, they haven't suffered a whole lot of blowouts, period. Maybe a handful that I can think of off top. Outside of that, again, we're about halfway through the season, and the Pistons have been competitive for the majority of it. This young team that's really brand new in terms of their construction together, in terms of learning how to fit with one another, adding a guy like Malik Beasley who's playing red hot, Tim Hardaway Jr., who's giving you great production on both ends of the floor, Tobias Harris, who can pick his spots in terms of what he needs to do for this team. We're seeing JB Bickerstaff as the brain and the genius of unlocking and fitting all that together, because he's running a lot of actions that get Malik Beasley open shots. He's running actions that get Cade Cunningham post-up opportunities on the block, or easy drives for Jaden Ivey at the top of the key where he can take advantage of his speed against slower defenders. We're seeing him use his intelligence and basically enhance the skill set of these young players to put them in the best position to be productive. We weren't seeing that with Monty Williams last season. What he was doing was letting Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren play pick and roll basketball at the top of the key while everybody else was sitting in the corner waiting for a shot. That's not smart basketball. That's not smart coaching. That is wasting time. That is wasting your talent. And that's putting more unnecessary pressure on your star player. That's exactly what he was doing last season. But now we're seeing Cade Cunningham being taken off of the ball at times. We're seeing guys rotate and move with action sets instead of just sitting in the corner. We're seeing Asar Thompson bring the ball up now. We're seeing him lock up and, be productive and helpful on defense. We're seeing Jalen Duren in positions where he's learning on how to defend without fouling, even though he had a struggle against that with the Knicks last game. Outside of that, you're seeing the necessary steps grow with this team. And even outside of their growth, we're seeing them fight for JB Bickerstaff because he's fighting for them. He's standing on the sideline the whole game, chirping at the team, telling them, giving directions of what needs to be done, fighting with the officials, challenging calls, which Monty Williams refused to do, making adjustments in the rotation, making adjustments, quarter by quarter based on the situation, and being transparent about it as well. We're hearing about plans that he's putting in place, and he's executing them properly. JB Bickerstaff has been fantastic. Unfortunately, due to the unbelievable success that we're seeing from Cleveland, Kenny Atkinson is probably going to be the overwhelming favorite for Coach of the Year. But considering the storyline of where the Pistons were last season to where they are now, and again, he's coaching a brand new situation with a brand new roster, to me, I think he should be in first place in the vote. I think Coach of the Year should be his right now to lose if they keep this pace moving forward. JB Bickerstaff has been absolutely fantastic with his team, and you are seeing and hearing them basically rave about the opportunity to play for him and be a part of this franchise for him. That is huge for the Detroit Pistons. I absolutely love what JB Bickerstaff has brought to this team. So that's my two reasons right now for why I believe the Pistons are for real. My third reason is looking at what the Eastern Conference layout is like. Again, the Pistons are in the 8th seed right now, 21-19. They're currently in a play-in spot. They're in the second play-in spot. It goes from 7, 8, 9, and 10. Those are the 4 play-in positions. And if you look at all the teams that are in front of you from 4, let's go 3 to 7, the Pistons have either beaten these teams or they've been competitive with each of these teams. Even, again, the top 2 teams we already talked about. But look at the New York Knicks. They've beaten them twice on the road. They got smacked at home, but they beat them twice on the road in 2 tough games and superstar performances like Cade Cunningham to lead. Orlando, you've beaten them already. Milwaukee you haven't beaten yet, but you've been competitive with Milwaukee before. You've beaten Indiana. You've beaten Miami twice. Outside of that, I don't really see the problem. I don't see what else in terms of tough competition there is in the Eastern Conference that the Pistons can't keep up with. Below is the Atlanta Hawks, who you've already beaten, Chicago, who you've already beaten, Philadelphia, I think, is free falling at this point. Brooklyn's going to be in sell mode. Toronto's terrible. Charlotte's not a good team, and they're hurt a lot. And Washington is probably the worst team in the NBA based on their construction. I think when you look at the Eastern Conference from top to bottom, the Pistons don't have any reason for why they can't finish close to that 5th or 6th seed. They're only, a game and a half out from the 5th spot? And again, the teams that are in front of them, you've been competitive with or have beaten already. You don't have to undersell or worry just because of, the stigma that exists with the Detroit Pistons. They have been competitive, and they have shown they're not afraid to compete with anybody. Considering that and considering how well they have played together as a unit, they should be staring at this competition as an open opportunity for them to keep growing at a higher rate than we expected before. A lot of people came into the season thinking maybe they could flirt with that 10 seed. Maybe they could, teeter around the 500 area towards the end of the season. Maybe they could tag around between 25 and 30 wins, before the end of the year. They're at 21 wins right now. They may pass that 30-win mark by the time the All-Star break gets here. This team is absolutely for real. They've shown they can play against the Western Conference teams. They've shown they can play against the veteran-proven teams with superstars that are aging or on the come-up, like an Anthony Edwards, who dropped, 50 against the Pistons the other week? They've shown that they can compete and play with anybody. They are ascending at the right time right now. And again, as long as they stay healthy, as long as Cade keeps up with his trajectory, and as long as the complementary pieces around him keep doing their job, I don't see any reason why the Pistons can't be a serious playoff team. How far they go is yet to be seen. We don't know how far that's going to be, and I don't want to get too ahead of that right now. But can we take them serious as a playoff threat right now to be submitted as one of the play-in or playoff teams right now in the East? Absolutely. The East is not that strong right now. After the top 2 teams, this conference is wide open. I truly believe this conference is wide open, and the Pistons have every opportunity to cement themselves as one of the most dangerous teams a part of it. Those are my reasons. I truly believe the Pistons hype is 100% real. But again, I would love to hear from you. Talk to me in the comments right now. Let me know if you believe the Pistons hype, whether it's real or not. Talk to me. I would love to hear from you. Talk to me and let me know what you think about this team. I would love to hear your feedback. Talk to me about what you see from the NBA layout and this Eastern Conference right now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. It's going to be a fun rest of the season for the Detroit Pistons. Make sure you follow all my work. You can hit me up on my social media at I am Eric Vincent. You can follow my work at clutchpoints.com as well. And again, please, please, please subscribe and lock in with us on the channel. I'm trying to tag 500 subscribers by the end of the year. Make sure you like the video as well so we can get a little bit more visibility to it. I would really appreciate that support and love from you if you don't mind. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure here rapping with you. I am Eric Vincent. Thank you for tuning in. This is Top Title Entertainment. Peace.